question. I got in yesterday, so I arrived at the hotel. I arrived about 10 to 5, 10 to 6, staying just down the road. So I actually got to sleep, which is more than I've had because we've got a 6-week-old daughter. So it's probably the most sleep I've had in a while, but I've woke up with the worst headache today because I've probably had more sleep than I'm used to. But no, it's down to business. I'm here for 5 days, do a little bit of scouting around the area so I know things for when I come over, and then I think as soon as the visas are sorted and so on, I'll be back over to do it fully. Well, we'd had contact prior to Christmas, and I think it was solidified towards near the start of January, and at that point I was obviously still with my club team in England, and once a decision was made, it was pretty swift. As soon as the decisions and the contracts were signed, which was probably about going back and forth, probably about 7 to 10 days, I then made my decision, handed in my resignation, and here I am. I just couldn't turn down this opportunity. It's such a great opportunity with such an up and coming team that could do great things. Yeah. So we've had initial contact. So I always send the players an email with a questionnaire. The questions on there just about them. I think very, very simple because I need to know what they're like as people first and foremost before they are as players. So they've got until the 31st of January to reply to me on that. I've had quite a few back already, and that allows me to read things about them before I meet them as footballers. I can't judge what they've done on the field. I can see what they've done, but I can't judge it because what Tom would have asked them to do is different to what I will ask them to do. So we've had that initial contact, and then before we start I have a one-to-one meeting with every single player, and that then, it's not that initial meeting where we don't know each other. I'll have a little bit of background on them, they'll have a bit of background on me, so it allows us to flow into conversation pretty quickly. Yeah, so one of the words that's mentioned quite frequently, because I've just been around the offices upstairs, and is that family orientation. So the family basis, the connection to the fans, how important they are to what we do. Because, and I'll stress this, without them, we are nothing. We don't exist. Otherwise, to play in that beautiful stadium empty every week would not be worth it. So I think that family orientation, and that everybody's important, everybody's a key part to what happens. It doesn't matter what your role is. And I think that's really important. We have some of the world's best talent, but everybody plays their part, and I've got to make sure I connect all of that. That's my job, because everybody's important. So it was that really drew me to it. Just being around the people upstairs and the back team staff, I'm even more excited than I was when I kind of just knew it was just the job, because you work for these people too, and everybody's equally important. That's my job, isn't it? So you get to know me. I'm I'm accountable for my job. And look, whether it be difficult or not, I'm not saying when I'm coming in it's going to be easy to get the team to play off consistently and so on. I'm not saying that at all. It's very tough. There are some exceptional teams in this league with exceptional managers and exceptional players. My job is to work every day to do that. When I first went into Birmingham, they were an underdog team, so they were successful, but needed the underdog status. They needed to have that, somebody say, you're not good enough, it's us versus them. Where I took that off them, I said, look, you want pressure situations, so you have to be able to deal with them psychologically. So I'm going to make sure that this group are prepared to deal with the ideas of success. All these players are successful in their own rights, and last but one season they were in the playoffs. So it's about my job not just to be a flash in the pan. I don't just want to come here and go, right, let's have a smash, there we go, and then it finishes a season later. It's about consistency. I've got to build a foundation, and that's what I'm going to aim to do. Yeah, look, I think so. Lloyd Yaxley, the goalkeeping coach, is still here from that tenure, so I'll be speaking to them and I'll find out as much information. What I must stress is that the way that Tom would have done it is different to the way that I'll do it. So to judge people by the same thing is a little bit, you can almost know too much information before you start, which gives you a preconception and judgment of people. So I've kind of stayed away from the judgmental side of it, and what I do is I'll speak to Tom once I'm settled in and have that conversation. But he's been great as well. I know that through conversation you'll know how personable Tom is and a good guy he is. So I'm hopeful that once I've settled in and spoke to all the players and so on, I've got my own ideas, I can then rub ideas with him as well. Almost like we've known each other for the most time. Erik's so personable, and again I'd like to thank him for the opportunity to be here, because I think that we can do wonderful things. So with his guidance and his help and support, and obviously the club's support, I think that we can really create something special. That's the aim anyway. That's going to be it. That's a really good question. I think there's a mixed response on that, because you can watch games, but there's also the feeling side of the game. What's it like in the emotion? What's it like on the raw emotion from the side? In England, I quite like to sit high on the side to see the game tactically. Whether you can or can't do that with the connection to the fans is something I've got to experience when I'm here. Having watched it, it's a super the best, most intense physical league in the world, in my opinion, for women's football. For me, I've got to look at ways in which we can control that physical battle to ensure we have the way of playing around that. I've watched near enough all of the games that Orlando played, but I've got to do so much more work than that. I've got to be watching all of the other teams as well. She's been brilliant. So we, Laura and my partner Laura are from the same village. So she was back prior to Christmas, and we were having a conversation just about the league and so on. And she's reached out, she's helped me, she'll help me with just the little things that you don't really know about, the credit history and things like that, just the things I wouldn't know about, which obviously the guys here will help me with anyway. And she's talked about the league. I know that she's tried to adapt a slightly different style than what's already portrayed in the US. So it's just those little insights I think are really, really valuable, and I'm going to listen to as many of those as I can, because they're maybe the little golden nuggets that I need to be aware of. Well, there was Hayley Kopmeyer as well. So I actually cooked Hayley Christmas dinner over in Australia. So it was a weird situation, but look, I'm going to sit down with the senior figures of the team, the players that have been around it, know Orlando inside and out, and I'm going to ensure that I take on all of the information and then use it to the best of its ability, rather than it be a judgment to use it and help support. But I think just speaking to people, they'll all tell me the story, and I've still got to experience that for myself, and that's what I'll be doing as soon as we hit pre-season. I think that's really important, that I experience it myself and understand how to adapt it. I think that, and I'm going to make bold statements here, but I think people rely on shapes too much. I think they think that's the be all and end all. For me, it's about having a series of principles and foundations that players can play from, so that when they're in a situation they can make an effective decision. If you ask a coach what is one of the most sellable factors of a player, and it's that they make the correct decisions. So for me, I have to work on the decision making process, and that's habitual work in training. So that takes a little bit longer, but with that I want them to do that so they have the ability to adapt to shape within the game. So if I said to them, play through it at the back now for the next 15 minutes, and I'm a big fan of people like Maurizio Sarri and Pep Guardiola, and they adapt within the game to the needs of the game. I think if you look at it through a different lens, you look at how to control the spaces on the field rather than the players on the field, and that's how I look at it. So I look at it slightly differently, and what I'd like, if we were to talk about what does success look like for me, can my players, with the simplest of instructions, adapt their shape to be effective on the field? So that's the shape that I'd go with. Whether we need 2 at the back, 1 at the back, 3 at the back, if we're chasing, if we're controlling counter-attacks, if we can do that, then I will have been effective in my job. Yeah, absolutely. There are some things that we're looking at and discussing, and that's why coaching's so important. So I'm not just here to coach a shape and put it on the field. I'm here to affect people and affect players and make them better, regardless of their stature within the game. We have a shortfall of players within that. If all are selected, hopefully for the World Cup, my job is to make sure that the guys that are holding the fort while they are ready, playing and improving. And if I can do that, then we'll be fine in that short period that we won't have them for. But in the meantime, we are looking at different strategies too. Yeah, so for reasons that are out of our control at the minute, we can't name who they are, but they're already identified. Contracts have already been signed, so they'll be in and working with us. So you'll know in due course of who that is. Just for other reasons, I can't tell you who that is at the moment. But yeah, that's all in place, and we know we're ready to go. That will definitely be one of them. There's going to be so many challenges. Adapting to the style of play, adapting to the league and the way that we want to play. Personalities, conversations. There's so many challenges. But I think if we take them all at once, would be silly. So we have to break them down individually. But we'll have plans in place ready for it if there is a shortfall within that window. But again, a lot of things can happen between now and that period. Having a partner that's played in a World Cup, I know how important it is for people to do that. So I've just got to make sure that we look after club, and I'll do that as I see fit, based on the information I receive over the next couple of months. Do you know what I think it was? We literally had to do everything. So we're a club with a budget that was quite low compared to some of the competitors that we had, and we had to build a competitive team. And I've done everything at the club, so I think I've worked from the ground up. And there are some amazing people at Birmingham, and it feels like there are amazing people here. So that's going to be a good transition for me. So I think that my grounding and my background of what we've had to achieve and what we did achieve, although we didn't win anything, which is something that I would have liked to have seen out the project, but when this opportunity came, I just couldn't turn it down. I think that we can create something special, and that's what I've got to try and do. I think you've already answered the second one, how much they want to invest by putting somebody like Erik in the position. I think it shows a progressive nature of soccer in America as well, but Orlando especially. Just seeing the intentions upstairs to make this a special place and make it a hub of football goes a long way. And I think my experience prior to understanding a general manager role, because I think in England it's slightly different that I've experienced, but I would usually negotiate contracts regardless with players, lengths and so on. So I've done all of that work. Erik will take that part off me, so I can concentrate solely on focusing to get a good team on the field. So it's a testament to Orlando just how the resource they're putting into making a successful team. I was sitting on the sidelines. I was in the players I selected were my players, so I selected them. If you notice they're on the phone, I'm on the phone. I'm the one at the other end. I'm watching it live on YouTube through our TV. So I was part of everything. I made the decisions. And then the two girls that we selected, Erin and Marissa, I see them for the qualities that they have that people potentially overlook because of the nature of the league, because they're that ingrained in what the league does. But I've got a fresh set of eyes on the league, and that's where I selected those players. And I'm sure with work we can really make them ready for this league. We had to grow. So before my time as first team manager at Birmingham was the RTC, which is a regional talent club, which is the youth section. And what I ended up doing was identifying players, and there's no bigger satisfaction than bringing players through and growing with you and the club, because they have the identity that the club wants. And I suppose it's the same for like the draft system. Even though you get them a little bit older, because you've took the chance on them, they become part of your club and they're ingrained in the fabric of your club. And there's so much benefit to add to that, and that's where I look at them differently because of the way I want to play potentially, but I still see the value in everything that the players already here have, and it's just about adaptation. The biggest skill set I'll ever use is adaptation, and we wouldn't be here because humans adapted to evolve, and for me the players will have to adapt to be the best players going forwards anyway.